Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first of many videos that I'll be shooting. My name is David Lloyd, and I will be taking you through the entire Algebra 1 course. A couple bookkeeping things before we get started. If you'd like to reach me, find me on YouTube at SV Math Teach. Feel free to follow. I have hundreds of followers, but I could have a whole lot more. So jump on board and follow me there. If you'd like to make a comment, you may. Otherwise, you can reach my email at school at david.lloyd@svpanthers.org. And if you have a question or concern, let me know. And if I can, I'll try and respond. Second thing that you'll know is we do use a regular textbook within the course. This is the book that we use at Soccer Valley. So if you have a question, you can refer to that book. Without further ado, let's get started with the first chapter and the first video. Enjoy. All right, our first video of the year is going to be on section 1-1. It's going to be on variables and expressions. Now, before we begin, nice and simple, a variable is going to be any time or any letter or symbol that stands for something else, and an expression is simply a collection of variables, constants, numbers, multiplication symbols, operations, and so on. Expressions will not have an equal sign, so if you see an equal sign, that is not an expression. Expressions do not have that. Equations have equal signs, not expressions. Now, some of the ones that we're going to talk about are going to be review for you. I'm flipping through some notes here while I'm making this short video. There's some key phrases like sum or difference or product, quotient, and I suspect you all know what these mean already. Just in case you don't, sum of course means add, difference, product, or quotient. And you also recognize the fact that normally these words do not stand by themselves. For example, you might have the sum of something and something. The difference between something and something. The product of. The quotient of. Normally you're going to see that, and when you do, you're going to be looking for two things. You're going to be looking for whatever goes right after the word of or right after the word between. You're going to be looking for the key word and, which I have as a symbol here. And then you're going to be looking for that second thing. That's going to tell you what you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. For example, if you have this expression, which could be written said a couple different ways. I might say this phrase as I notice that it's this binomial times this monomial, or this expression times this expression. Because it's multiplication, I'm going to use the product of, but this is the first part, this is the second part, and the word and is the piece that suggests that they get multiplied. So I might say, or describe this as the product of, that shows multiplication, the product of 4 and the difference between x and 3, or the difference between a number and 3. So I would use two different phrases. I would begin with the overall multiplication piece, the product of, and then when I get down to this, so the product of 4 and now I'm on a subtraction piece, now I might use the difference between. A couple other phrases you might see. You might see the phrase less than, which is different than the phrase less. The phrase less is kind of not often used. Let's say x less 4, which is a very odd phrasing. You might see it on a test, something that your math teacher probably wouldn't write. But if you would see that, you would just write x minus 4. But if you saw x less than 4, it's backwards. It is not the first thing, subtract the second thing. It's actually 4, take away x. The phrasing you're going to see most often would be, it's 10 less than some number. But if you see less than, be aware that it's backwards. And the final thing for this would be the quantity. If you see the quantity, that's kind of shorthand for parentheses. So not only could I say this phrase, as I've mentioned a couple different ways, but I could also just do it if I were on the phone with somebody and I were trying to describe this to them, or I were trying to text it to somebody, I might say it's 4 times, that's the multiplication, 4 times the quantity, x minus 3. It's a very easy way to describe something. It doesn't use all of the language that we might prefer for expressions and variables, but it would get the job done and it would sure let everybody understand what you're doing. With that, that is section 1-1. A reminder that if you'd like, come follow me at SV Math Teach and like what you see. Thank you.